take a more detailed look about these intraday scenarios and also including these smart money traps. For example, as you already know, the lit steps in action so far with the overall structure a little bit as well. Again, Asia range will play a huge role. For example, in here, we already see that Asia range is building on the downside in here. And of course, the first thing we do is identify the liquidity. Now, that's the first step for the lit steps we will do. And as we already can see and identify where it is, of course, we see these all these equal highs and also these equal lows in here being already grabbed by, of course, this time London Open, right? So the next thing we need to do is, of course, identify the higher time frame liquidity in here. And of course, as you can see in the equal highs in here, that is definitely a proper mitigation zone, meaning this will just become another smart money trap based on the intraday timing, as Alex explained pretty good, right? So let's look at it a little bit more. So what to do in the next thing, we identify we are in the cycle, or we're in the build-up cycle and the inducement cycle or mitigation cycle. Now we're just having a minor inducement out of Asia. But again, if we look to the bigger pictures back to the left, we have not done anything. We did not mitigate any demand or supply zone, or we did not grab any liquidity. So that's just a minor inducement on the intraday aspect of it. But of course, what we will do, we look for an inducement, and of course, we will get it after here. So now finally we grabbed on the bigger picture aspect of it, the liquidity on the upside, and now we can look for the mitigation zone in structure points as Alex described earlier. Okay, and then we finally done with the overall cycle, and also the intraday play can be done, and we can look for reversals in that areas. Okay. And of course, we look for optimal entries covering next week and show you exactly how to enter this. But this is just in a nutshell of how we can utilize the overall structure with liquidity plus the daily cycles and the buildups in a nutshell in here. But of course, let's take a look at this in depth now and combine it with what we have learned so far. Okay, so just minor structure, but more intraday as we need to complete the whole daily cycle. So first thing we will do, of course, as we see in here, we need to identify the liquidity on an internal point of view. So what we will do, we already see, okay, we definitely have Asia low liquidity here. We're already grabbing this minor liquidities in here, which is in the intraday aspect, a minor inducement out of Asia range, right? But if you look to the left again, what does this induce or do? Nothing, right? So we need at least a proper liquidity grab about here, right? So that's what we're doing. We cover the liquidity in here. Next step would be, where are we in the cycle? We cover where you're in the cycle. So of course we look for a better inducement. Now we're having only a minor inducement, right? So now we're seeing, okay, we're having Asia buildup. We're having a minor inducement at this point, right? So breakout, new high, of course, just the internal stuff as we showed like 10 million times at this point, right? Same stuff, so minor inducement. And now, of course, we look for a detailed inducement and traps to the left, right? So now we need to include the structure to the left a little bit more in order to actually find out the reversal point properly. So first thing we need to do, we need to grab liquidity, of course, for an internal play. And of course, we already can do something like this and mark this out as a smart money trap, as we have something above in here as well with the imbalances, right? Why does it work? There we go. It's a little bit of delay in here. Should be fine anyways. So with that being said, like again, it should be very obvious at this point what should happen next. So the question just is, so based on the cycle, what should come next? And again, a hint is we already had a build-up. We already had a minor inducement. And of course, the only thing which is left is a medium inducement followed up by a mitigation to complete the cycle with the build-up, inducement, and mitigation also on an internal basis. So if you go back in here, so mitigation is next. Of course, it's not the smart money trap. That will be the inducement. So what we can do immediately, we mark up the next mitigation area after the internal inducement, and it can something look like that. We're having a smart money trap in here, faking the reaction, then getting an inducement, stay short of the mitigation, just makes a new push into now final mitigation, completes the daily cycle, right? And of course mitigates the significant areas, and then we can look for more downside in here. Okay, so and we look at this in a little bit details of how it played actually out in this sense. That's exactly what happened in this sense. Okay, so we expect the smart money trap in order to grab liquidity, then building up this false channel again, and then looking for the final mitigation of this extreme push in here. Okay, step by step, slowly building it all together. Of course, what is else? Timing aspect. Of course, so this also confirms it, structure confirms it, plus the intraday whole play.